Welcome back to American Christian or Christian American. If this is your first time, welcome. And I encourage you to go back to see my first episode so you understand the context of what I'm talking about. If you disagree, it's important for you to disagree knowing all the facts that I put out. So we're going to be talking today about the Moors. But first I'm going to show you some videos that I'm going to refute. Now, these are actually clips from the Roland Martin show about 8 years ago, but it brings out the Christian nationalism, or actually just a white supremacy in this country, and the ridiculous statements that they make. I'm sorry to have to listen to it, but it's important for us to listen to these things in order for us to get a good context, and then talk about what really is true. Because this is all based on lies, it's based on things they don't know what they're talking about, it's based on things that they just want to convince people that they're right and that they are the supreme people. And nothing of that is true. Now, I'm white. I'm not better than anybody, but I'm also not less than anybody. We are all meant to be children of God. We all have different abilities, but it isn't based on our skin tones. It's based on natural gifts. And also sometimes it's based upon our access to public education and different opportunities we have, which in the United States, as we're crawling up to here as we can go through different historical facts, the United States has kept non-whites away from education as much as possible while giving themselves every opportunities. But it wasn't that way forever. And some people were more generous than people who look like me. So let's get to those clips.
No one will honor us for losing gracefully. No one mourns the great crimes committed against us. For us, it is conquer or die. To be white is to be a striver, a crusader, an explorer, and a conqueror. We build, we produce, we go upward. And we recognize the central lie of American race relations. We don't exploit other groups. We don't gain anything from their presence. They need us and not the other way around. We are not meant to live in shame and weakness and disgrace. We were not meant to beg for moral validation from some of the most despicable creatures to ever populate the planet. We were meant to overcome all of it, because that is natural and normal for us. America was, until this past generation, a white country designed for ourselves and our posterity. It is our creation. It is our inheritance, and it belongs to us.
Here's what President-elect Trump's staff had tweeted in response on Capitol Hill. How are whites dominating the number of jobs in the White House? How are whites dominating jobs all across America? And you're saying it's not enough white people, so stop hiring those minorities. They don't need jobs. We got to make sure us white people keep getting jobs. Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't surprise me at all that whites succeed. We have succeeded throughout the centuries. We are a people of great genius and ambition. So none of that surprises me. In terms of looking at all of these CEOs, a lot of these are older people. They're from a generation they come from a generation with a very different population. What I'm more worried about right now are younger people. These institutions are actively, explicitly trying to discriminate against them in terms of hiring.
How?
It's unfair.
How?
I don't like it. But even worse, this is moving towards a country that is not going to be the country that we want.
Well, no. We say the country that we want. I'm still trying to understand, because you still haven't answered my question.
Because Europeans build societies that everyone wants to come to be honest.
Okay,
where are the Syrian refugees?
Hold on, you said
when they're
built
invading, where are they going? They're going to Central Europe. They're going to Western Europe.
You said built.
Yes.
Who built the railroads in America that allowed for us to have expansion out west? Who built that?
Yes, a lot of Chinese people.
No,
like,
you said the operative word there was built. Built. Who built? Okay.
Who designed them? Who had the genius to imagine railroads? Europeans.
Wait a minute. The genius to imagine railroads. Okay.
Yeah.
But you said
Are
built.
there railroads in Africa?
You said yes. You said built.
Why?
You said
us.
hold on. You said okay.
Okay, we're going to look at two different documents here. The first one we're looking here, it gives you a little bit of a heading here, and then down here it says the appearance of the original Berbers according to the European perceptions. So this is according to what people in Europe saw. The Berber tribes, which is also the Moors, and down here is just they were described as dark reddish brown like the Indi, or as blacks or Ethiopians in the early documents. The notion of the early Berbers as white, being white or Caucasoid, is a new racist one. Is new and racist, related to the concept of African Hamite. The idea that Ham was turned black because of a curse, which is ridiculous. Now, the idea of them being white did not even happen until after the 12th century, and this was considered because of racism. All right, so now let's go. This would be a good document to look up if you wanted to see more on it. We're going to go to another document here. 15 things you didn't know about the Moors in Spain. Okay, so the Spanish occupation by the Moors began in 711 when an African army crossed the Strait of Gibraltar from northern Africa. Okay. Here it describes them. The reins of the Moors' horses were as fire, their faces black as pitch, their eyes shone like burning candles, their horses were swift as leopards, and the riders fiercer than a wolf in a sheepfold at night. All right, and so they conquered the area. The area was ruled by the Goths, which is old name for Germanic tribes or Germans. Down here in the section 3, the Moors who ruled Spain for 800 years introduced new scientific techniques to Europe, such as a device for measuring the position of stars and planets, scientific progress in astronomy, chemistry, physics, mathematics, geography, and philosophy flourished in Moorish Spain. All right, and the most noted historians recognized and declared that there were no lands at that time, the 8th century, more admired by its neighbors and more comfortable to live in than a rich African civilization which took shape in Spain. All right, Cordova, the heart of Moorish territory in Spain, was one of the most modern cities in Europe. The streets were well paved, with raised sidewalks for pedestrians. During the night, 10 miles of streets were illuminated by lamps. This was hundreds of years before paved streets in Paris or lamps in London. Cordova had 900 public baths. We were told that a poor Moor would go without bread rather than soap. So the idea that black people are dirty, no, they had all kinds of public baths where they kept themselves clean. So that's just another racist comment that they've made. Okay, and then down here in 7, education was universal in Moorish Spain, available to all. So white Europeans, black Moors, anybody. While in Christian Europe, 99% of the population were illiterate, and even kings could neither read or write. At that time, Europe had only 2 universities. The Moors had 17 great universities. These were located in these different towns here. In the 10th, 11th centuries, public libraries in Europe were non-existent, while Moorish Spain could boast of more than 70, of which one in Cordova housed 600,000 manuscripts. And it talks about here the many, or 4,000 Arabic words were brought into Spanish. Some of the words algebra, alcohol, chemistry, and so on. And then also in section 10 here talks about different instruments that were brought into Moorish Spain. The Moors introduced paper to Europe and Arabic numbers. Now, there are some other documents that talk about that the numerals that we use today were created by Arabs and some influence from people of India. But nevertheless, it didn't come from Europeans. It was brought into Europe through the Moors, which replaced the clumsy Roman numeral system. The Moors introduced many crops, including orange, lemon, peach, apricot, fig, sugarcane, dates, ginger, pomegranate, and so on. And those things are still grown today. The Moorish rulers lived in sumptuous palaces, while monarchs in Germany, France, and England dwelt in barns with no windows and no chimneys. So they were quite primitive, where the Moors were quite advanced. It was through Africa that new knowledge of China, India, and Arabic reached Europe. The Moors brought compasses from China to Europe. The Moors ruled and occupied Lisbon. Until they were finally defeated and driven out, which have been in the late 12th century, or which would be 13th, something like that. So, we looked at those videos where it claimed that white people were superior. White people are ones who do all the creation. But according to this, white people had to go to a black university to learn some things first before they could become creative. So, what they say is just not true. Europe was educated by the Moors. Doesn't make them inferior, it's just a matter of fact they didn't know things. Africans knew things before they did. And then they would go conquer them, and they would mess up those things for all people. So let's make this plain. For all those white superior people who are white and superior to everybody else, they had to go to a black college to learn what they were doing. They didn't know all this stuff before they went to black universities established by the Moors. Now, Europe had 2 universities, but most people were illiterate until the Moors brought all these different things of mathematics and different crop sharing, paved roads. All these different things were given to Europe by the Moors. Yes, we had Rome that had a civilization, we had Greece, but all the other European countries depended on what? Africa in order to establish what they had. Now, does that make white Europeans inferior? No, it doesn't. It all comes down to opportunity. When Europe was settled, there was, at the Tower of Babel, just a few families went off by their own and expanded from there. They took with them what they had. While the other people who stayed together were able to come up with many different sciences and everything as they worked together. It doesn't make one group less or more. But the fact is they didn't have the accessibility to knowledge. The Moors brought that knowledge. So how did it turn around? Well, after the Moors were kicked out of Spain by Caucasian people, which is in the 1400s, then they conquered Africa. And they destroyed many different civilizations by conquering them. And this also led to slavery. So now you took away the educational knowledge that they had and sat here and claimed it was your own. White supremacy has no realistic background. White people weren't first, but they're just as valuable as anybody else. White people didn't come up with all these things. It came from other people. And yet they have had many great discoveries today. But they got the head start from African people. And then they took away the liberties of African people. They sold them into slavery. And then they say today, well, they're less intelligent. They're not less intelligent. They just don't have the opportunities like the Europeans didn't have their opportunities. And this country and many others will do as much as possible to make sure they don't get the opportunities because they want to stay on top. Why can't we just live together as God intended? Why can't we just care about each other? Stop looking at the shade of our skin, the color of our skin. Why can't we just care about each other as God told us to care about each other? If you're a white Christian nationalist, you have no basis for your ridiculous ideas because it's not godly and it doesn't have any historical evidence to prove it's true. Let's grow up as human beings. You can't grow and mature doing this kind of things. You can only grow and mature when you are part of God. Thank you. And until the next time on American Christian or Christian American.